Coming up on Time for Hope.
There was time before ultrasound that we didn't realize that movement happened before 16, 17 weeks. But now with ultrasound, you can see that little 7-week baby moving, just slight movement, and it's the first movement of life.
Join Dr. Freda Cruz, licensed professional counselor, and her guests as they provide practical solutions to real-life problems on Time for Hope.
We always appreciate you joining us on Time for Hope, a faith-based mental health program. Today, my guest and I are going to tackle a subject that involves political, social, and spiritual trends and values. My guest is Shari, an obstetrical ultrasound expert and educator who has personally experienced the grief and pain related to abortion. As a result, she has produced videos that can give you a window into a woman's womb so that you can become an eyewitness to the earliest days of an infant's life, beginning with conception and going through the 38 weeks of a pregnancy. And we will be hearing facts related to the emotional and physical trauma of abortion, and of course, offering hope of healing and recovery. Stay with us. And Shari, it's great having you on Time for Hope.
It's great to be here.
We've already told you that you're our first guest on our beautiful new set that we're already, we know we're going to enjoy.
I am honored.
Yes. And you, of course, I don't know that I've ever done a show just on abortion. So, but I think I've been waiting for the right one to come along and the right information. And I think that you have the combination. You have a personal story, so we can talk about the pain and the aftermath of an abortion, and also the videos that you have made so that viewers, those that order a copy or those that get a copy, can actually see that there is life in that womb from the beginning all the way through.
That's what is so exciting about the work I've done. I believe that women need to be informed and to show them their life in the womb, that little heartbeat at 4 weeks and the baby moving at 7, 8 weeks, that bonding develops. And then when you can address the needs that she has, many, many choose life. So it's a wonderful ministry that God has given me.
And all the result of your personal story. It's interesting, I usually ask for my guest story. You know, our life is a story.
Exactly.
Everyone could write a book about their life, couldn't they, actually? But you have a story related to abortion, and I want to, let's get that out first thing.
You know, I personally suffered the pain and the grief and the complications related to abortion when I was 18 years old. And I had complications, long-term complications, that developed into a molar pregnancy where my uterus ruptured, turned into cancer. The doctor told me I couldn't have children. Then I went into ultrasound school, and then I saw the blobs of tissue that I thought I aborted were babies, now babies I couldn't have. And then as I would do ultrasounds on women, they would tell me to turn the monitors away from women considering abortion. And I said, I can't do this because I was lied to and I was suffering the grief and pain. And time after time, I'd see the babies and that pain would just grab my heart. And as a last resort, I went to a beach and I cried out for God to heal my womb, to give me a child, to use me, to help other women and men to know God's forgiveness, and then to use my ultrasound expertise to show that this is a baby. And that month, I conceived the first of my 3 boys, and the videos went around the world in 12 languages, and you can't deny a woman's personal testimony, and more women are coming out with their stories and finding God's grace and healing.
I found the videos very entertaining, and so did your audience. It was really something. But we could also carry this over, because I have women writing me, grieving their hearts out over a miscarriage. Maybe have tried forever to get pregnant. They finally get pregnant, and then they lose it. And people don't understand their grief, that they feel they were carrying a real, a child, and they lost that child. And there is a grief involved even in miscarrying. Exactly. So I can imagine with abortion, the grief that must come with it when one realizes that indeed there was life there, a person, of course, not fully developed yet, but was the beginnings of a human being.
It is devastating, and I think when you look back to, over 45 million women have had abortions, and the grandparents and the children, America is suffering, the world is suffering as a result of abortion. And if we can come out of denial and allow ourselves to grieve and be healed, that's when we can really make a difference. And these ultrasound babies are so cute, because now the window to the womb is open, and you can't deny that this is a little baby that has personality, that's jumping, that's moving. And that has also helped to take the denial out and bring life to these babies.
As women, those of us that have had the privilege of carrying babies full term and having them, I don't think we'll ever forget with each one, even the first time that movement took place. And then we were anxious to share it with our husband. Let me have your hand, and it's moving, you want to share that with me? That also can bring a couple together.
It's interesting too, as you say that, because there was time before ultrasound that we didn't realize that movement happened before 16, 17 weeks. But now with ultrasound, you can see that little 7-week baby moving, just slight movement, and it's the first movement of life. But by the time that baby's 9 weeks, 10 weeks old, it's utilizing its whole uterine cavity. And you'll see the babies waving in the womb and flipping and sucking their thumbs. And what happens when I can introduce that ultrasound to the mother, even if she's considering abortion, we have found that over 80 to 90% will choose to carry that baby to term just from seeing the baby on the ultrasound. It's so powerful.
What a ministry, and what a story. Because now I believe the stats, research and stats are saying that we have 51% of people are pro-lifers instead of pro-choice. And this is the first time in history, I understand, that this has been true.
It is, and it was exciting to find that ultrasound was given the major credit and education in the pregnancy centers nationwide. But then also, we are finding out what pro-choice really means. And we have found that the American people are not pro-choice to allow abortion on demand for all 9 months of pregnancy. They're against the partial birth. They're for informed consent. They're for parental consent and education. And all of this, if enacted into law, would be done. And that's what choice really means. And we find that as you educate, people are really not choice when it comes to those issues.
So it could be that your videos and your story have helped bring that that percentage of 51% up. And then you give a lot of credit to the person that, did he invent ultrasound, or was he just using ultrasound to do what you've done with your videos? What's the story behind it?
He's my hero, and nobody's heard of him. So I did research, and I did a documentary, and his name is Ian Donald. He was born in 1910. He died in 1987, the year that I picked up sound wave images, and I know I am carrying his mantle and his legacy. He invented ultrasound, and in the late 60s, early 70s, he took his first ultrasound of a 12-week baby moving and jumping in the womb, and he showed it on TV to over 6 million people, and the government was furious. Just as the government was furious with me when I showed my ultrasound before Congress and Senate, and they called it an obligate parasite. But he said that he was disappointed that the medical research was now using his invention to search and destroy, to decide which baby should live and which should die. And I have a personal letter from him that says, I pray that God will raise someone to carry my work. And I am honored to be carrying on his work.
Well, the Lord does marvelous and wonderful things when we give him our lives and ourselves and are at his beck and call, so to speak, to do what he would have us to do. Now, you also say that the PR centers, the
pregnancy centers,
pro-life resource centers,
right.
And I know we have one here in Spartanburg that's doing a great job, that they think your material and especially your videos are just indispensable in the work they do, right?
I am so honored that they use, I started my first DVD in 1990 that went into most of the pregnancy centers and around the world, and then I just completed this latest DVD. It's Eyewitness Window to the Next Generation, where I show the 3D, the 4D, the higher images, and yes, they're saying it's changing lives, and then I also share God's journey in my life from death to healing, and it has brought many of their women that come to the pregnancy centers to give them hope and healing.
Now, let's say a young woman has just learned that she's pregnant. She's single, going to college, and even her parents are in favor of her. And of course, very often the father of the child wants it aborted, get it out of the way. That doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And she's being encouraged to get an abortion. What would you recommend that she do? First step, first thing.
You know, and those are real problems. And it's not an easy decision for anyone that doesn't have support and are going to school. But what we say to them, get the information. You don't have to make this decision today. Go to your local pregnancy centers. They're across the nation. Google it. Look it up in your yellow pages. Most of them have ultrasound. And what we're finding is that 50 to 60% of pregnancies that are positive on a urine test are not viable. So we can do the ultrasound to see if this pregnancy is even viable, and then she can make the decision of
facts.
Exactly, and many times
need to deal with facts, don't we, rather than
makes
just
a difference. And then you love and support her no matter what she decides.
I think they're telling me it's time for us to go, and we'll be right back. Pro-choice groups are hesitant to admit and confirm that although the initial impact an abortion has on a woman is relief, there can be long-term emotional pain and suffering that usually does not show up until later on in the woman's life. It can be within the first year or up to 5 and even 10 years later that she begins to reflect on what she has done and experiences various forms of post-abortion stress syndrome. Studies have shown that 94% of women who have had abortions regret their decision. Focused on the Family Issue Analyst report that certain studies have revealed substance abuse and suicide are more common among women who abort their pregnancies as compared to those who have given birth. Although not an official diagnosis, many women report various emotional and behavioral happenings that researchers agree fit the syndrome. And these can include feelings of guilt, loss, and grief over what might have been and cannot be, depression on the first anniversary date of the abortion, depression around the time of what would have been the child's birthday, and auditory hallucinations or dreams of a baby crying for help. Some reactions to these emotional and behavioral experiences include suicidal thoughts or attempts, anxiety and panic disorder, addictions, insomnia, repeated unplanned pregnancies and additional abortions, problems with later pregnancies, and problems bonding with and caring for previous children or new babies. I wish to challenge women who have had an abortion and are experiencing any or all of these post-abortion stress symptoms to find and get professional help. Secondly, I want to encourage women who are considering an abortion to search for the truth regarding what you are about to do and get objective counsel. Remember that decisions made in the heat of a crisis are emotionally impacted, and we need to allow our emotions to settle and our heads to clear before making decisions that will have long-term effects on our lives. And seek the help and favor of the Creator God, who will guide you to truth, is able to provide for your every need, and can provide the emotional peace and healing that you are searching for.
Now this baby is George. Say hi to George. George is going to get ready to take a jump.
This baby's actually dancing in the womb there.
Salsa.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm getting tired. So here's a kiss goodnight. Peace to all. Well, what do you think of those babies? Thumbs up! Yes.
We appreciate your staying with us on Time for Hope. Our guest for today is Shari, and we're talking about her personal life story, her mission, her vision related to abortion and saving babies. And she actually has videos, and I'm holding one right in my hand. Eyewitness and Window to the Womb. The next generation. This one's number 2. I don't know how she's put out. I think she's got a 3 and a 4 I saw something about, but the one I have in my hand is Eyewitness and Window to the Womb, and I've already referred to the ultrasound and the video clips wherein you can view a baby in a woman's womb. Now, Shari, you want to tell our viewers how, first of all, they can get a copy, and they're going to be given information on how to get a copy of this. And then secondly, you want to tell them how to get it into schools and into churches. What about churches? They certainly need their young people educated and to see something like this.
Everybody needs this, and it's positive. It shows life in the womb. And because of that, you can get it into both private and public schools. And that's the main thing. We need to educate the next generation before the youth find themselves in an unwanted pregnancy. And once you can get these into the schools, I love the kids' reaction. I have a clip in the DVD of the kids laughing and just excited to see this little 10-week baby jump. And you start a fire within that school, within the youth, when they can see that this is a baby. And secondly,
it would
the churches
encourage abstinence. You're
exactly
very pro-abstinence, which of course I am very pro-abstinence until marriage. And you say that abstinence is the best birth control. It's cut down on more abortions, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Than any other, we might refer to birth control, yes?
Right, and it saves from the grief and pain of abortion. I've been through that pain. Many have been through. And the churches need to know, because I think the churches do not know how to address the issue of abortion, but they can address it through education on life in the womb and on God's grace and healing. Think of what we can do. And they can go on my website, unborn.com. I have little Vimeo clips and YouTube clips, and you can clip it and send it to friends, family, just around the world with this new technology. It's awesome.
And then let's move on to this whole idea of, I know it is having to do with the third trimester abortion, or when the baby is fully almost ready to be born. I've read all kinds of stories about how much a baby knows already and hears and knows during that time and picks up on and can give actual scenes that they saw while they were still in their mother's womb. And I was there the day that my son's first baby girl was born. And when they placed her in his arms, I've got the picture, it was beautiful. And he spoke to her, her little eyes just threw open, and she knew she had heard that voice. She recognized it right away, and there was an immediate connection there, and it was beautiful.
It is. It's so amazing, because even in the, first trimester with the baby jumping and moving, they can feel pain. And then it's usually around the 6th, 7th month where the senses are developed and they can hear the sounds of their mother and the father. No, it's not a coincidence that that child knew their voice. They're living human beings. They're living spiritual souls. And it's precious. Every life is precious.
Another thing I saw in the videos was that they feel so safe there.
Yeah.
I'm being a therapist, and of course I've studied and learned about the trauma of birth. There is trauma in birth, but one of the reasons being they're so safe in they imagine they are, or they feel they are, I should say, and then to be thrust out into a world that's not so safe. There could easily be trauma there, especially with all the lights and the noises and everything that go with birth today.
It's interesting, because I see more babies in the womb than I do outside. I know their personalities. I know what they do in that large, warm swimming pool. I can tell them when they're sleeping and when they're waking up. And I'll never forget when I saw the silent screen where it showed an actual video of a baby being aborted, how that baby tried everything to get out of that womb. And you could see the mouth open wide as if to be screaming. And that's when I got on my knees and I said, God, use me to show what is going on in this womb and through abortion. But it is
they
a safe place. They
actually have to sometimes just kill them, don't they?
That's exactly what they do. All kinds of abortions. I don't even like talking, but the safest place where in the womb has been the most dangerous Holocaust in the world.
And Shari, we have to look to the scriptures and remember the 10 Commandments. And it's just very clear and plain that one of the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt not kill. So what we're looking at here is hoping that a person that is considering abortion can become convinced that it is a real person they're talking about doing away with, so to speak, and God says, no, thou shalt not. Then I remember a beautiful verse I really like, and that is, the New Testament says, talking about women, and they shall be saved through childbearing. You know what that's saying? Okay, we're blamed for the fall in the Garden of Eden, give it all to Eve. Adam, of course, was deceived and not Eve. But God has given it to us to be redeemed, because a woman brought forth the Christ child, the Redeemer. Yes. So all of the human race is saved through a woman bearing a child. Beautiful, beautiful way. And then thinking of abortion, that God will forgive. There's forgiveness with God. And there's healing and recovery. You know from your own personal story, and have said that. So let's go out on an encouraging word from you about that.
And Isaiah 61, and they will become oaks of righteousness for the planting of the Lord, and he will take their ashes and bring them into glory. So God uses all things for his good.
And so it's great, Shari, having you on Time for Hope and just sharing your story with us. And I hope our viewers will make sure they get a copy of this, because I certainly appreciate it and enjoyed it. And we look forward to, maybe someday you'll come back to Time for Hope, and we certainly look forward to your joining us. And right now, I would actually like to have you stay with me, because I have a couple of things I'd like to share with you before you turn that dial. I have a request here, a prayer request, because we encourage our viewers to send prayer requests through to us, and we assure all of you that we take each and every prayer request that comes into Time for Hope to our Heavenly Father, knowing with Him there is hope of recovery, hope of getting a job, hope of healing, hope, whatever hope you are looking for. So this one says, Dear Dr. Freda, please pray for my daughter. She is in college and just found out she is pregnant. Please pray for us. And that would be a time that a family needs prayer. This daughter needs prayer, and we hope today's show will help this family, if they have not already made a decision, make the decision to pull together, support this daughter, and some way, somehow keep that baby, even if she just wants to make sure that another family that's looking for a baby and would love to have a new baby, if she chooses even adoption rather than the abortion route. And so you can see we cover all kinds of things on Time for Hope, but our focus is to give hope. And we would encourage you to help us financially. Many of you are taking me up on this, and we appreciate each and every gift and contribution that is coming into Time for Hope to help us get this kind of educational material out, and to confront these kinds of issues, real life issues. And when you help us financially, you are teaming up with us in the mission and in the vision that God has given us at Time for Hope. I am very passionate about the resource we are offering today. Unexpected and/or unplanned pregnancies are a fact of life that most of us are familiar with one way or another. When they come, decisions are required. I firmly believe that seeing a copy of our DVD resource titled Eyewitness and Window to the Womb will enable you or someone you know to become convinced that abortion should not be considered. To purchase the DVD, go to our website at timeforhope.org or call us at 1-800-669-9133 or write us at Post Office Box 2169, Spartanburg, South Carolina 29304. Also remember that we have a one-page fact sheet available free by calling or writing with your request.
Until next time, have a great week. And remember, it is time for hope.